Few things in the NBA are making me happier right now than seeing D'Angelo Russell play so well for the Lakers. I honestly hated, and I repeat, hated how much Lakers fans were throwing him under the bus around the trade deadline. Yes, I understand defensively he's never been the strongest player, but let's not forget the central reasons behind the Lakers' inconsistent play these last few seasons. They've always been a subpar offensive group. Ever since LeBron got there, they've never been spectacular on that end of the floor. A good amount of it was due to their lack of consistent three-point shooting, of course, but rarely during the LeBron AD era have they had a consistent third option scorer. And for a team that doesn't run a stellar offensive system like a Denver or like a team like Golden State, that third option shot creating, especially on the perimeter, is extremely important. And the Lakers front office idea back in 2021 was that Russell Westbrook could fill that void, but we all saw how that ended up turning out. Then they go and pick up D'Angelo Russell at the deadline last year, and he helped mold them into a much more competitive group in the second half of last season. Now, obviously, once LA got into the playoffs, he wasn't as impressive, especially in that series against Denver. His minutes dwindled along with his production as he averaged under 10 points per game. And as I mentioned earlier, most of the disappointment came with his defense. Denver in that series made it a major point of emphasis to go at him, and that pretty much rendered him ineffective. And I think from there, I was pretty confused about how to look at D'Lo's career as a whole. Yes, he's shown himself to be a very impressive offensive force who's had some great regular seasons, including an all-star appearance in 2019. And over the last few years, he's molded himself into a pretty efficient player, but I've always questioned how effective he can be on an actual winning team. What's his role on a squad that's actually contending for a championship? Those are the types of things I always wondered about D'Lo. And through his career, he just hasn't solidified himself as the best playoff guy. He's averaging just 14 points in 27 career postseason games. But in the offseason, despite his struggles against Denver, the Lakers betted on him by bringing him back, and he also betted on himself. He fully committed to improving for this team over the offseason, and it's paying major dividends. Let's start with the defense. No, he's still not a lockdown player on that end by any metric at all, but he is giving a lot more effort on that end than what we've seen before, and Lakers top brass is really recognizing it. And offensively, he's been lethal. He's putting up 18 points per game, which isn't his career best, but the efficiency is what makes it so impressive. He's draining a career best 42% of his shots from distance, and he's a few percentage points away from being a 50% shooter from the floor in general. And during the offseason, when the Lakers extended Austin Reeves, the question was if he was ready to fully assume his duties as their reliable third option guy around AD and LeBron. And not saying that Reeves hasn't played that role well, but D'Lo's played it a little bit better, and even on some nights like that game against the Bucks, he's even shown the ability to be their best guy on the court. I love his shot creating. He's also shown this ability to get extremely hot from three-point range. And judging by a few games, it looks like he's got the trust from LeBron to be a consistent perimeter scoring option. Now, the big question here is whether or not he can actually bring this into the postseason. As I mentioned earlier, he's still yet to have that one amazing playoff series over the course of his career. I think before this, the best playoff run of his career was in 2019 with the Nets, where he averaged like 19 points on just 35% shooting from the floor. But this looks like the year where he's getting it all together. He's been super reliable and extremely consistent, and it looks like LA can defer to him enough to break down defenses and keep offensive possessions alive. And of course, while he has gotten tougher on that end, will his defense still be a limitation come playoff time? We'll see. But no doubt you have to commend him for his response to what was a disastrous end to the playoffs last season. And I just love how he's having this quiet career revival on the same team that drafted him back in 2015. And if the Lakers want to be considered as title contenders again, if the Lakers want to get back to the NBA Finals, of course, LeBron and AD's play is going to be huge. But D'Lo is the ultimate X factor on this team. So he really needs to bring it consistently night in, night out once the playoffs roll around. And judging by his trajectory this season, he's more than ready to play that role come April.